All right, so welcome back. We were doing May June 2024, MCQ 16. MCQ 16 says what is likely to happen if a previously competitive market becomes a monopoly. Now they're saying initially the firm was competitive, now it has become a monopoly. So now they're saying what could be the situation then. Now, if a firm has become a monopoly, we all know that the size of the firm is going to increase. So let's look at the options which suggest that the size of the firm has to increase. So this means the option which says that the size of the firm will decrease, you can chop it off. So you can chop B and C. You need to satisfy all the three situations: the barriers to entry, economies of scale, and the size of the firm. We know a monopoly has to be the size of the firm has to rise. So it either can be A or it can either can be D. What about the barriers to entry? Yes, we know the barriers to entry are high. The barriers to entry will increase once the firm is a monopoly, right? So it has to be an increase, and economies of scale also has to increase. Hence, the correct answer is D, because the firm grows in size. So the per unit cost of production will fall. It will experience economies of scale. And yes, we all know that once it's a monopoly situation, there are high barriers to entry. Therefore, 16 has to be D. It's difficult to enter into markets where a monopoly exists. So for 16, it has to be D. All right. Number 17. Number 17 says which macroeconomic aim, if achieved, is most likely to increase a government budget surplus. Now, what is a budget surplus? A budget surplus would be where the total revenue a firm is earning is greater than its total spending or the total expenses, right? So if the government is having an increase in budget surplus, which means the total revenue is rising by a far greater percentage or by far a greater amount than the total expenses. So now they are seeing which macroeconomic aim, if achieved, now which out of these four options would enable the government to have an increase in its budget surplus. So do they say full employment, income redistribution, low inflation, balance of stability, payment stability? Out of all these four options, which of the option would yield an increase in the budget surplus? Now you get the hang of the question. Now, A is full employment. Yes, A is the correct answer. But then let's look at why it cannot be B, C, and D. You see, if it's low inflation, so not necessarily that there's no guarantee that it would yield to budget surplus. If the rate of inflation is falling or the rate of inflation is less, it's not necessarily going to contribute towards an increase in the revenue, right? Balance of payment stability means would what? That there would be a reduction in the current account deficit, right? So it's addressing a current account deficit situation. So it cannot be C, it cannot be D in this case. B says income redistribution. Again, if you're talking about income redistribution, so you are addressing the poverty level or you're addressing the inequality in incomes prevalent in the economy. So it cannot be income redistribution. But yes, full employment will lead to a budget surplus, increase in the budget surplus, because full employment would suggest what? That the government would have to pay little or no unemployment benefits at all, and it is generating sizable amount of taxes, both through direct and indirect sources, right? When people are going to be employed, so the government would have been having sizable income taxes, both from individuals and firms, corporate profits and income profits, taxes out of those, and spending would also increase by people because people would be the standard of living of the country would be high. So, by way of indirect taxes, when people are going to spend, the government is earning sizable direct and indirect taxes, which can yield to an increase in the budget surplus, and this would also mean that uh, the level of production in the economy is high, so unemployment level will be really low, and the government will be paying almost negligible amount of in unemployment benefits, right? So 17 is A. All right, let's look at number 18. Number 18 says that the table shows the income tax rate paid by workers at different levels of income in selected years for a developed economy. So now the economy is developed and they've given you the tax rates in year one, and then they're giving you the percentage tax rates in year two. Now they are saying what is most likely to be have been the economic objective of the government in changing the tax rates between year 1 and 2. So now if you notice carefully, if you look at carefully at the table, you'll notice the government has brought about the changes in the percentage of the tax rate. So they are asking you what could have been the reason behind a government taking such initiative. What is the government's objective? Now, if you look at the income bands, what is happening? Till $5,000, zero amount is being taxed. Now from 5,000 to 9,999 up to 10,000, it was initially 10, now it's 0. From 10 to almost 20,000, it's 10, then it became 30, that's the same. From 30 to 50, it's 50. And then it's from 50,000 plus, it's 60. So now what is it's happening? It has adopted a more progressive taxation system. So what is most likely to have been the economic objective? Yes, when a government adopts a progressive tax system, so its aim is what? To reduce income inequality. It's charging a higher percentage from the more affluent, right? So it has to be B. 19. Number 19 says a government attempts to raise economic growth with a policy of reduced interest rates. So now the government has slashed off the interest rates, and it intends to increase economic growth, which means it intends to increase the economic activity. And they are saying which other government objective is most likely to be helped in the short run. So now they are saying if the government is trying to do this, so which else option do you think is going to be helped also? Yes, so when the economic growth is happening, what is happening? The economic activity is rising. So this means what? The firms will be producing more. So when the firms are producing more, what? The scale of the production level will increase. So when the production activity increases, what happens? The firm demands more labor. So when the demand for labor will increase, what will happen to the employment level? The employment level will rise, which means what? The unemployment will fall. So yes, lower unemployment, that's the correct answer, right? But price stability, you're not sure, because if economic growth is going to happen and the scale of operation rises, so inflation could rise. So not necessarily that it could be price inflation stability. So you can chop B off. C, reduced income inequality, not necessarily, you're not sure. Maybe some people could have been much better off than the others. So income inequality might still prevail. It could be, might be even worse off. Some people might be better off as compared to the others. Reduced trade deficit. It could also be that the consumers are then spending more on imports. You're not sure, but what you can be sure about is that yes, when an economy is experiencing economic growth, so what happens? The entire PPC shifts outwards. So that means the either unemployed, if there were unemployed resources, so you are moving on the PPC, or if you are increasing economic growth, so the entire PPC shift outwards. So yes, unemployment level reduces or employment level increases. So in all situations, A is a definite answer. So 19 has to be A. All right, 20. What is the definition of a supply side policy? Come on, that's so easy. Supply side policy is again any policy designed to increase productivity. So for 20, it has to be D. When you aim to increase the productivity, that means you are opting for supply side policies, increasing the productive potential. 20 is D. 21. Subsistence farming is the practice of growing crops and raising livestock sufficient only for one's own use without any surplus for trade. Yes, that's exactly what subsistence farming is. Now they're saying, why is it difficult for a government to measure economic growth in an economy based on subsistence farming? So now they're saying, why would it be difficult for a firm to measure the level of economic growth if its economy is heavily relying on subsistence farming? So by the name, it suggests that farmers' families consume most of their own produce. So what does it happen? It gets it difficult to come into record. This is the reason why it's difficult for a government to measure economic growth. The rest of the options don't make sense. So 21 has to be A. 22. They're saying what is necessary for a worker to be classified as unemployed. So what do you mean by unemployed? Unemployed means what? That you are willing and able to work, but you are out of job. You are out of work, right? Willing and able to work, but without work. So the worker does not have a paid job. Yes. So in all A, B, C, and D, it's saying a yes. Let's look at the second part. It says the worker is prepared to work. Yes, the worker is prepared to work. So this means you can chop A and B, which says a no, because the worker is prepared to work and the worker does not have a job, paid job. So you are left with what? C and D. Then will the worker accept the current wage rate? Yes, it is will accept the current wage rate. So it has to be a yes in all the three situations. So for 22, it has to be D. Let's look at number 23. What is most likely to increase when the rate of inflation gradually changes from 2% to 8% in 1 year? So in 1%, initially the inflation was 2% and it has risen to 8%. So they are saying what will increase when inflation increases. So the level of business confidence, no, the level of business confidence will dip. There will be uncertainty. The real income of fixed income earners, the real income of fixed earners will fall when inflation is rising, and the real value of consumer debt, again, the real value of consumer debt will also fall. So all the three options suggest a fall, except for option A, which says that the cost of updating existing price list, yes, the cost of updating existing price list will rise because of this uncertainty, and 23 has to be A. Number 24. Number 24 says the introduction of a minimum hourly wage rate in an industry aims to reduce poverty among the low paid workers. So the government has imposed that this hourly wage rate is the minimum. That means the hourly wage rate cannot go beyond this certain rate, right? And it is done to reduce the poverty level, especially among those who are earning a low wage, who are paid low. What is an advantage to workers of an effective national minimum wage? So they're saying what could be the advantage to people in such a situation? All workers get paid according to the level of productivity. Firms may look to increase capital equipment rather than labor. Levels of employment become more dependent on wage differences. Redistribution of a firm's income rewards labor rather than the owners. Exactly, it's option D. Why? Because now minimum wage is protecting the workers' interest from firms to workers. So this is how the workers are being at an advantage, because all the three options, they're not speaking about the advantage. 24 has to be D. All right, now let's look at number 25. Number 25 shows you the population pyramid for a country. And now on the left-hand side, they are displaying you the female population, and the right-hand side, they're displaying you the males. And now if you look at the bars, so population is densely populated. It's as you look at the young population, right? 0 to 10, 11 to 20. And as you progress, as the age group increases, so you see the population shrinks. So what does this suggest? That this country has a high population, a high birth rate, and a high death rate. Why? Because as you move up the age spiral, so the population is shrinking, which means what? People have a lesser lifespan. This means a high death rate. Less people are surviving up till age of 81 to 90. So the population is hardly meeting up to that level. So this means people pass away. So this means the death rate is high and the birth rate is also high, right? So it has to be D. So for 25, it has to be D. 26. The table shows information on 4 countries. Which country is likely to be the most developed? Now, in order to be the most developed, the first column displays the population, the second shows the GDP, and the third shows the life expectancy. Now, if you look at the life expectancy, so yes, whichever was showing you the highest life expectancy, you might be going for that. For instance, you would be saying D, right? But let's hold on. There's a trick in this question. They've given you the population and they've given the GDP. So what you're going to do is you're going to calculate GDP per capita, right? You're going to calculate GDP per head, and GDP per head how would you calculate it? You'll divide the GDP with the population. So 800 divided by 100 would give you 8. 6,000 divided by 200 would give you 30. 600 divided by 300 would give you $2. And 1,600 divided by 1,000 would give you 1.6. Now looking at this GDP per head and looking at this life expectancy. So which is having the highest GDP per head? B. And what about the life expectancy? Yes, it has life expectancy of 62, but what about D? D has a GDP per head of 1.6 and a life expectancy of 60. Yes, so you need to satisfy both the situation. You want a high GDP per head with a high life expectancy. So it has to be B. Now you get it? So don't just jump to answers. Look at all the other options available and then make a wise decision. All right, students. Number 27. What is the advantage to a firm of specialization at a national level? So if an economy is experiencing specialization, what do you think would happen? Dependency on supplies from other countries? No. Greater competition from overseas firms, greater depletion of the country's natural resources. They are talking about advantage. So greater competition, greater depletion could not be an advantage. It's lower average cost due to economies of scale. Yes. What does this mean? That means that average cost of production is falling, right? The cost per unit is falling. So 27 has to be D. Number 28. What is an intended outcome of protecting infant industries from free trade? So this means why in the first scenario you opt to protect your infant industries, right? Why would a government try to protect its domestic firms which are in their infancy stage, right? From free trade. What does it tend to do? To decrease the competitiveness of domestic firms. A is wrong because you are protecting to increase their competency level. So you want to increase their competency level and not decrease. So A cannot be the option. B is incorrect because B says to decrease the demand for exported goods. You are trying to protect your infancy stages so that your domestic firms are competitive enough and their exports rise. So 28 B cannot be the option for 28. D says to increase the supply of imported goods. No, the entire aim of yours is to boost your domestic industry, right? So if you want to increase the supply of imported goods, what's the point in protecting your infant industry? What's the point in supporting your domestic firms? So A, B, and D do not make any sense. C says to increase employment in domestic firms. Yes, once you are increasing, protecting your infant industries, so the employment level or the labor employed would rise, and there would be a fall in unemployment level or a rise in employment level, right? In domestic firms, more higher activity production level would occur, right? A higher output level means more demand for labor, more productive production, higher economic activity. So for 28 has to be C. All right. Number 29. In the diagram curves, D1 and S1 relate to the demand and supply of US dollars against the Chinese yuan. So this shows the demand and the supply for dollars against the yuan. Now on the vertical axis, they are displaying the price of dollars in yuan. That means how many dollars, how many yuans are required for each dollar. And on the horizontal axis shows the quantity demanded and supplied. They're saying what is most likely to cause the demand curve for US dollars to shift from D1 to D2. So now, why do you think that the demand for dollars would be falling? So now the demand curve is moving inwards. And as a result, what is happening? That the price of dollars in yuan is falling. So now they're saying what could be the reason in the first case for the demand for dollars to fall? Now, if you are talking about demand and demand is falling, so A, C, and D would have caused demand for dollars to rise. A is causing what? A fall in Chinese rate. So if there would have been a fall in Chinese interest rates, so the demand for dollars would have risen. C is saying, so this cannot be the option, but in here the demand for dollars is falling. And A would suggest a rise in demand for dollars. So A cannot be the option. C says a faster growth in the US economy. So if there is a faster growth in the US economy, so people would be demanding more of dollars. C cannot be the option. D says a reduction in the US government budget deficit. So this means that the government would have been then offering a higher returns on its savings probably. Uh, so D cannot be the option, right? Because all A, C, and D would have caused the demand for dollars to rise, but here the demand is falling. So you can chop A, you can chop C, you can chop D. D says a fall in US interest rates. Yes, a fall in US interest rates means what? That the interest rates, the returns on savings is reduced. That is why people are now demanding less of US dollars. So for 29, it has to be B. All right. Number 30. 30 says Brazil had a balance of payment current deficit accounting to 23.5 billion US dollars. They're saying which policy is most likely to reduce the current account deficit in Brazil. Now they are saying which could be the reason, which policy would cause a fall in the current account deficit in Brazil. Now we all know that depreciation means what? If I'm talking about depreciating Brazil's currency, so depreciation means what? A fall in the value of a floating exchange rate. Yes. So A is the correct answer, but then why? Because what would depreciation do? Depreciation means what? That the export prices are lower and import prices are expensive. So the demand for the domestic products will rise, and as a result, the output will rise, and the employment level will increase, and the exports will increase. So what will happen? The current account deficit will shrink. So for 30, it has to be A. Why can't it be D? It cannot be D. Why? Because if you are reducing tariffs on Brazil's imports, so the deficit will worsen. If you are reducing tariffs, so the deficit will worsen. So you can not be D, right? Because otherwise imports will rise. If you are reducing subsidies to Brazil's exporting firms, so firms will be producing less, exporting less. So exports will fall and not rise. So the current account deficit will not reduce. However, the current account deficit will rise. So it's negating the situation. You want the deficit to reduce. So C cannot be the option, right? Again, reducing rates of income tax in Brazil would what? If you're reducing the rates of income tax, so the people are going to spend, let's say, more on imported goods and they will have more purchasing power. So in that case, it could be that the current account deficit could worsen. So again, B, C, and D would worsen the situation of current account deficit. It has to be A when you reduce the export prices and the import prices will get expensive once the currency is depreciated. And then you would likely to reduce the current account deficit. Why? Because exports will then increase. Once the export prices lower, the exports will be cheaper, right? So for 30, it has to be A. I hope this is clear and you've enjoyed solving this paper. We'll be meeting with another exciting paper. Stay tuned, subscribe, take care.